Why, sure. Let's go live, StreamYard. Why not? We're all here anyway. Hello, everybody. This is Unfound Live for October 23rd, 2023. So that's 1023 2023. How cool is that? And I have a spectacular show lined up for all of you tonight. Of course, that's what I do. I take my time, I do it right. I peruse the internets and interwebs out there for news that I think you'll find interesting, things that I want to analyze, stories that I want to lend an opinion or two opinion to. How you like that? And of course, I have some unfound information to discuss as well. And then as has become the pattern here, at the end, I will talk about this Friday's episode. And so I think I have more than enough information for the agenda tonight. Pretty sure. Not totally sure. Pretty sure. I'm probably going to be a few things that I do not get to tonight. And that's fine. And that happens just about every week. Before I go any further, please remember to give this live show a thumbs up or a star or a heart or whatever you can do in whatever, however you are watching this tonight, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, in the discussion group or on the page, or like I said, on YouTube, on the Unfound Podcast Channel page on YouTube, the channel. Please give it a thumbs up. Just do it right now so you do not forget. Also, if you're not even a member, maybe you're hearing about Unfound, and that still happens. People finding out about Unfound for the first time. You should go to Facebook and join the discussion group. Go to the Facebook page, share it, and like it. And if you'd like to go one step further, if you find the content that is provided here between the podcast and the YouTube channel and TikTok and Instagram and all of that, please consider supporting the hard work that is put in here by going to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and contributing there at one of the levels. Or you can do so right there on YouTube by hitting the join button below. You will get things that other people do not get. Of course, I wish everybody in one form or another, all the listeners, many listeners out there, I wish that all of you would support Unfound one way or another, if it's only just $2 a month. So I appreciate it. So there you go. As for me, the last time we got together, what has happened since the last time we got together. Had a disc golf tournament up there at one of my favorite courses, Floral City. And if you just would have counted, we played 24 baskets. If you just would have counted the first half of the course, we played on Saturday and Sunday, the longs on Saturday, the short tees on Sunday. If you just would have counted the front 12 from each day, I would have finished very, 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 very well. Unfortunately, the back 12 counts each day as well. And especially on Saturday, that's the second half of the first round was not good. And I kind of lost my mind for a while, and that really hurt me. But still, I threw some of the best shots that I've ever thrown at that course Saturday and Sunday, and just a little tweak here and there. And it's so weird. I mean, looking at my PDGA ratings for like the last 6 weeks, the ratings are not very good, but it's so weird that I feel like I'm just so close to really making a breakthrough. And I will have a chance to do that playing this weekend. Another one of my favorite courses, and that is Cliff Stevens right here in Clearwater. I'll be playing there Saturday and Sunday. And then the week after that, I'll also be playing on Saturday and Sunday. So we shall see. I usually play well at Cliff Stevens. So we'll see if we can make it happen. We'll just have to see. I usually play well. And in fact, if I only played my tournaments at Cliff Stevens, my PDGA rating would be a lot higher than it is. It's just how those things work out sometimes. So I was up there, got to see my buddy Dana, who's an assistant tournament director there. Got to see my buddy Cameron, who was doing some volunteer work up there. And I stayed in a pretty nice Air Bnb, this little very cozy little cabin. And I did a video of it. If you are friends with me on Facebook, you saw that video that I posted, this nice little cozy cabin. For a bachelor like myself, I could live in that place. Just as cozy and everything as it was. And certainly the cabin was a lot smaller than the condo I live in here in this building. But it was just really cool. And you should know, when it comes to my standards, kind of an Ed thing, that when I pick out my Airbnbs, I only pick out places in which I have like my own building or my own entryway or things. I don't stay necessarily in people's houses. That's weird. I know people do that. I know a lot of people don't have anything against that. And you go on Airbnb and you can find many places like that all over. I mean, I stayed in an Airbnb when I was over in Orlando, but once again, it was like kind of a standalone building in the back of the house that was not connected to the owner of the house, the person who was offering the Airbnb. And that's the same way it was this past weekend. That's really the only way I do things. Only once have I stayed actually in a person's house with the homeowner there and everything. It was like the weirdest thing ever. It was just, I don't know if people do that. I don't know. That was like, must have been 2018 maybe. So it's been like 5 years ago. And it was just totally weird. And I said, never again. So it's either hotel rooms or separate entryway Airbnbs where I'm the only person in that section of the building or something like that, or I don't go. That's where I am at this point. But really, I only really use those when I go for disc golf tournaments. That's the only reason I ever go on there. I usually have an Airbnb that I've stayed at a few times up in Brooksville, which is near Floral City, that I really like. Once again, it's a separate place, and it's a setup over the person's garage. They have their own house. The garage building is separate, and they made this little apartment over their garage, and I really like that place too. However, it had already been rented out. In fact, the person told me that the renter, whoever was going to be there like for a couple months or something. So I don't know what's going on there. But so I was forced to find someplace else, and I found this place, and it was good. And I'm glad for the future I have like a backup. So it'd be either one of those places. Going way back to 2019, I actually stayed in an Airbnb up near Floral City. That was also, it was one of those container apartments that had been fixed up to be an apartment, which also very small, but very neat to me. And the shower for it was actually outside. So that was interesting, but it was still cool. It was still pretty neat. But that person isn't on Airbnb anymore for some reason. So I've stayed in some really interesting Airbnbs since I started doing that back in like 2019, 2018, 2019. Really stayed in some nice little cozy places. A nice place down in a couple nice places down in North Fort Myers that I've stayed in some Airbnbs. And then the place I was at for Labor Day weekend over in Orlando, that was cool too. I know how to pick them out, and I really don't. It's very comparable to renting. Everything's up, inflation, everything, and it ends up being fairly reasonable because the alternative, of course, like for Floral City, is driving back and forth. Although that would technically be cheaper. That's like an hour and 40-minute drive up there. And in the end, I know that I would be saving money if I did that, but I wouldn't get any work done and I'd just be worn out. And I know that if I did that, getting up on Sunday morning, I'm like, do I really have to drive up there again? That's what I'd be like. So I'm glad I went up there. All right. So let's see. That's what's going on. And of course, this coming weekend, playing over Cliff Stevens, I'll be staying here. And I don't think I'm playing anywhere for a while that I'll be actually staying out of town. I'm going to be playing down in Bradenton the end of November, beginning of December. But Bradenton's only like less than an hour drive. So that's not a big deal. And it's a very easy drive. Floral City, totally different situation. All right, let's see who's in here. Hello, everything. Charles, what's going on? Melody, Karen, Lisa, what's going on? Hello, Marty. Good to see you tonight. I want to make sure you got in, didn't miss anything. Yeah, Charles. Mary, I love the lives on Monday evenings. Me too, Mary. Funny you should mention that. Barbara, okay, all those listings by me. Hello, Kathy. And Suzanne. And Facebook user, hello, Ed. Hello back to you, Hazel. And Cherie, you're going to have to keep, being that I'm doing this show, you're going to have to keep me posted on what the Astros and the Rangers are doing. If everybody doesn't know, Cherie is a huge Houston Astros fan. And, of course, the deciding Game 7 is tonight. Dr. Telesco, by the way, is a huge Astros fan, too, which is really funny, being that you grew up in New York City. Valerie and Twinkle, what's going on? Stacy, who else is here? Tuesday afternoon there in New Zealand. Oh, yeah, spectacular. I won the first half, Hazel. That's true. And Stacy says the weather was beautiful this past week in Florida. Stacy, was perfect disc golf conditions up there in Floral City. Perfect. Not too hot, not too windy, and I should have played a lot better. Deborah, good to see you. Thanks for joining in tonight. I think we're all waiting for the Ed breakthrough. Well, Marty, you should know I won 5 tournaments last year. This year has not been good. Not practicing as much. A lot of other things on my mind. But like I said, I'm just so close. A lot of missed opportunities. Valerie, you saw that video. The cabin was nice. Twinkle says I wouldn't stay in anybody's house. I don't even like the bed and breakfast places because I'm like in somebody's house. That's true, Mary. It's true. Marty says a container apartment. That's pretty wild. You can see like on YouTube how people do those things up. And the neat thing about that, Marty, was when I stayed there in 2019, I could almost walk to the course at Floral City. From where that was. It was that close. But for some reason since then, the person's not on Airbnb, so I don't know what they're doing with that now. Screaming. Yeah, good to see you. Where you been, Screaming? Where you been? Kathy. Okay, so Kathy's going to keep us updated. Thank you, Kathy. Martin. All right. Good to see you. And yeah, we got some people in here tonight. All right. Other news. What else is going on with me other than that? Yeah, the cozy Air Bnb, very average disc golf. Yeah. I still continue to feel that anytime I show up, like to play an intermediate division, I have a chance of winning. Even though I'm not coming close, I'm throwing a lot of great shots, and if I can just be more consistent with those shots, I know I can do it. It's just sometimes my mind wanders out there. It just does. So just to give you an example, on Saturday, I was 3 under for the first 12, which is a pretty solid score. And then on the back 12, I was 5 over. Bad. Not good. But I try to remind myself that's a course I only play once a year. And what I really need to do is, even though it's an hour and 40 minutes away, one day when I don't have a lot going on, which isn't often, but still, maybe if my brother's not doing anything, we can go for a little road trip, go up there and just look at that course a little more closely. Because I think I'm sometimes take some shots for granted, and that's where things start going badly, I think. All right. So what else? One other funny thing. It wasn't funny at the time. It's funny now. But was that on Thursday morning, I take, I've talked about this before. I take cholesterol medicine every other day. I've been taking like 5 milligrams of the generic Lipitor every other day for like, I don't know, 16 years now or something like that. And I also take a vitamin D pill, and I usually just take them at the same time, put them both in my mouth and just drink the water. On Thursday morning, for some reason, I was like in a hurry. I don't know what was going on. I tried to do it too fast, and they both tried to go down the wrong pipe. And I had to cough, not to gross everybody out, but the vitamin D pill actually got stuck in my throat, and it took a while to get it out. And in fact, I was doing so much coughing and I actually gave myself a sore throat over the course of Thursday. So when I went to trivia on Thursday evening, I had this not that I don't know if anybody could tell there, but I told my brother what had happened, but I had this horrible sore throat because I had made my throat raw by trying to, because it felt like it was still there, probably wasn't. But those pills, they can be really rough. And, your throat is fairly delicate. It doesn't take much to scratch it. And I think that's what I did. And, it's just one of those things. It was an unpleasant feeling there. Because the Lipitor pill came back out, but the vitamin D pill never came. It must have dissolved or something. So it was an interesting Thursday for me, and I think it's only because I don't have any swallow problems or anything. I was just in a hurry. I was just like, I forget even what I was doing, what was on my mind, but I got to do this, and it went bad. And so I fought that for like some hours, trying to get it out, and gave myself a sore throat in the process, to the point where on Thursday, I actually went over and got some Chloraseptic to make the sore throat feeling go away. That's how bad it got. So stupid. But these are the things you run into when you live by yourself. And although I've joked around with some of my friends here in the Tampa area, it's going to be one of those things where nobody's going to hear from me for a while, and maybe a live show is going to be missed, or maybe a podcast isn't going to come out on a Friday, and everybody's going to say, "What happened to Ed? Where's Ed? What happened to Ed? Where's Ed?" And somebody comes over to my condo and has to bust in or something, and they'll just find me deceased on the couch or something because I choked to death or something. Of course, I'm totally joking around. I hate to be morbid like that, but it happens. Yeah, that happens. And maybe that's one of the benefits of having a roommate, being in a relationship, living with somebody that you two can look out for each other. Nobody's looking out for me here at the condo because I live by myself. But it does go through my mind. In fact, I remember just a couple years ago, my buddy Cameron, who I saw this weekend, he even said something like that to me. Like, one of these days, we're just not going to hear from Ed, and we're going to go and you're going to find out you were like dead in your condo for like a month or something. It could happen. All right. That's what's everybody saying? Eek, Ed choking. Hello, Carrie. What's going on? Mark and Indy fashionably late. That's how I like to arrive too. I have a sore throat for screaming on a roller coaster on Saturday. Get the chloroseptic out, Lisa. Ed, you have to be more careful swallowing anything. In my eye, I know he did. Kathy, I know he did. Very sad. Yes, I knew that, Kathy. Yes. He choked on a piece of meat 7 years ago. Wow. Yeah. That's how I feel too, living alone, Deborah. Yeah, we gotta be careful about these things. Nobody's got our back while we're at home. Out in public, going to trivia, going to the grocery store, or going to Starbucks or whatever else. There's other people around, but when you're at home, you got to be careful. And so this goes for a lot of different things. Choking, or I know that my ex-girlfriend and still very close friend Suzanne, she lives by herself in LA. She blew out her knee a couple years ago at home by herself. She was there by herself. That's just not good. Just these are the things you think about. Yes, Stacey. Yeah, would you get someone to check in on you if you're not doing the Monday Live or Friday show? We would get I appreciate that, Sabrosa. We would get someone to check in on you if you aren't doing the Monday Live or Friday show. Thank you. Thank you. You should know, even though my brother says that he doesn't have it, my brother's has the keys to my place. I know I gave it to him, but the funny thing, he says he can't find them. So I don't know what to make of that. In fact, I have to put that on my list of things to do to find out where those keys are. There's only one or two people that can have it. My dad or my brother Brian. And my dad hasn't been here since January. So, and I think that he gave them back before he left. But I keep meaning to ask him, because when my brother and I think when we went to the baseball game like a month ago or whenever that was, I was talking to him about that. And he goes, I don't have those keys. I don't know what to tell you. To put that on my list of things to do. Don't forget to do that. So he would have to come over. He had the keys. I take quite a few pills a day, and the vitamin D one is the toughest one. So yeah, those things are not small. Twinkle. $1 pill. I have a pill slicer too, Valerie. I got one. Cherie says too long. What's Cherie says too long? What does that mean, too long, Cherie? All right. Let's maybe Cherie's saying get to the good stuff, Ed. All right. Let's move on to that, being that I think that's what Cherie's trying to tell me. All right, let's move on. That's enough about me. Let's talk about Unfound. You know where I usually start, and that is with the Bynum poll. Of course, this past Friday, the disappearance of Arlen Bynum. It's one of those disappearances that lends itself up to a lot of different interpretations. And in fact, in the interview, we kind of went a little bit more into theoretical territory than I usually do, simply because this is a disappearance that if you start looking into things, you're going to find out a lot of talk that has been going on the last 20 years. And so I thought that it might be appropriate to at least touch upon a couple of those things, just so you know what Arlen's family thinks about all of it. But the Arlen Bynum poll that I posted in the discussion group was very simple. Was Arlen Bynum murdered? Very, very simple. Was Arlen Bynum murdered? He goes to this bar in Big Spring, Texas, and something happens. His truck is still there. his place where he's living. Doesn't look like there was any violence. Doesn't even look like he went home that night. What happened to Arlen Bynum? And it was 70% of the respondents in the discussion group on Facebook said yes, Arlen was murdered. And I have to admit, I'm not surprised by that. I've gotten to know the discussion group pretty well. I can pretty much predict when I put a poll on there what people are going to choose. And I was right again. I had the instinct that a large majority of the people were going to say, yes, he was murdered. So in the discussion group of the people who answered, 70% of them said, yes, he was murdered. In the think tank, it was almost a unanimous that he was not murdered. I think it actually was unanimous for the 8 or 9 people who were in the think tank last night. If you'd like to ever be a part of the think tank, you must go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and sign up at the $12 a month level or above. Of course, you get a lot of other stuff besides the think tank, a lot of good stuff. But that is how you get into the think tank. But the discussion we had last night, like I said, 8 or 9 people in there and myself leading the proceedings, almost unanimously, we decided that no, I think it was, why do I keep saying almost? It was unanimous that all of us decided that nope, Arlen was not murdered. I guess we might be open to the idea that he might have overdosed, but pretty much I'm thinking everybody was thinking Arlen caused his own disappearance, and it didn't have anything to do with anybody murdering him or covering anything up or giving him a ride anywhere. After we really talked it out for about an hour, just the very finer points of his disappearance. Then, of course, the blog that I write at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, that blog that I mentioned now at the end of every episode, where all you have to do is pay $2 a month to read or listen to my inner, deeper thoughts. Remember that old SNL skit, Deep Thoughts? It's kind of like that. I go into my reasoning of why I do not believe that Arlen Bynum was murdered. I didn't go like full 100%. I think at the end, I broke it down into a little bit of percentage. The thing that still concerns me that could lead me away from Arlen just causing his own disappearance is I certainly like to know more about this guy that was in his life who Don Williams, the investigator at the time, told me that could not offer up a solid alibi for that night. It's always going to catch anybody's attention. I wish I knew a little bit more about that. Don could not tell me. I think that I'm not saying he told me everything he knows about Arlen's disappearance. We have to remember that he's retired now. It was 20 years ago, and he didn't have his paperwork in front of him and everything. But the way he remembered it, this other guy who was in the military seemingly did not have a alibi that could be verified. It's not saying that Don said that he lied or anything. It's just that it might have been simply that the guy said, I don't want to tell you I was home alone that night. So I would like to know a little bit more about that, but I don't. So that's still, we know about relationships. So that's still kind of sticking in my mind. But I really, really lean toward the idea that Arlen Bynum caused his own disappearance. And all these other stories, a few of which we covered and some that we didn't, I just believe it's just talk. Talk amongst people who don't know anything. Talk amongst people who just can't help but do these things, say these things. And just because they're rumor mongers and they just want to seem interesting, they want to sound like they have like inside knowledge when really they don't know much about anything. Hello, Mike C. What's going on? Shreya says, no, that's not what I was saying. I think one of my messages is missing. Well, you might have used one of those words that like YouTube or something automatically deletes now, Shreya. I don't know. That's happening now. Already too much talk clouding things up in the case for Arlen. Yeah, a lot of talk. Although I missed the think tank last night, I do agree that was probably no foul play. Screaming deep thoughts. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. That's true. That's true about me too, Screaming. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. Although there are some people that hate me too. Marty, I agree there's something weird there. You're being questioned in a murder case. You would want to be as transparent as possible. Well, regarding this guy that Marty was all excited about, it very well may be that the guy was being transparent. It's just his transparency couldn't be proven. Like I said, he could have said, I don't know what to tell you. That night that Arlo went missing, I was 100 miles away, on the Army or Marine base or whatever it was, and I was by myself. And that very well may be the case. I mean, he might not have known he was going to need an alibi for that night with other people or something. So we have to be open to that. But certainly, I would like more of the particulars on that. But given that I'm talking to the investigator 20 years later, he doesn't have his paperwork in front of him, and it's not his responsibility anymore. He's just going by his memory, and I would never expect him to remember what that guy exactly told him 20 years ago. That's too much to ask. Just too much. All right, let's move on to That's Arlen Bynum. We just passed the 20-year anniversary on August 15th. I will try to stay in contact with his family as best I can. Moving on, this was some developing news yesterday and today. And it's one of those things where it's weird, always the weird on the timing of this stuff. That one wasn't a month ago. It must have been. I released a special episode where I listed all of the unfound nows that have been resolved. So remains have been found, or people have been charged with murder. People have gone to jail. And that was an episode that was on the regular podcast feed on which you get all of the Friday episodes. Well, that came out on a Monday. I'm sure all of you remember that. Well, it looks like another unfound now has been resolved. And that was the disappearance of Caitlin Rose, and I think Caitlin Rose Case's disappearance. If you remember, I'm going to read this article to you. But in general, she was a young woman who was from Louisiana. She was driving to Colorado for a new job, and she didn't make it to Colorado. And later, her vehicle was found in Oklahoma. You might remember that. And if you don't know, and I've tried to come across a couple things since I did that episode for Unfound Now, a lot of talk out there that it was murder and she got picked up and everything else. Well, I'm not surprised, but her remains were recently found very, very close to where her vehicle was found. So let me read this to you. Oklahoma authorities said human remains were discovered last week. So this is just recently, last week, here in October of 2023, at a location reportedly near where the car of a missing Louisiana woman was found last year. In a shared statement with People magazine on Thursday, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation said that on October 12th, they were notified that a landowner, keep that in mind, in Fort Towson, Oklahoma, had found possible human remains. The USBI, Choctaw County Sheriff's Office, Hugo Police Department, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and the Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office responded to the area to investigate. Is that enough groups, do you think? Human remains recovered and transported to the office of the Oklahoma Chief Medical Examiner for examination and identification. According to KXII, the remains were found in the area where Caitlin Case's vehicle was located in 2022. Last year, the USBI said via a Facebook post, the case was traveling from Houma, Louisiana to Colorado on or around August 4th. So I'm going to guess this is an Unfound Now that I did in September of last year. Case communicated with family members during her trip until they lost contact with her on August 5th, 2022. At that point, she was traveling on Highway 271 between Paris, Texas, and Hugo, Oklahoma. Case's vehicle, 2006 black GMC Envoy with a Louisiana license plate, was located along the banks of the Kiamichi River in a rural, I know I butchered that name, in a rural area south of Fort Towson on August 12th. Case has no contacts in southern Oklahoma and her whereabouts are unknown. Caitlin's mother, Peggy, said that she was informed about the human remains by the case's lead agent, was concerned that they belonged to her daughter. We've been in limbo forever. Was she trafficked or is she still out there? We don't know where she is. It is a horrible balance to live through every day, Peggy explained. Each day it is where could she be? Gordon Case, the missing woman's father, told the outlet that he believes someone did this to her. She didn't just dump her car into a river and then get out and walk off. He also added that Caitlin lost her cell phone service while driving through Texas on August 5th, recalling that she needed directions. You're talking to someone that you love and you know of, all of a sudden they're gone, he said. The statement from the FBI to People made no mention of Case's disappearance in their recent announcement of the human remains. Caitlin Case is described as 5'5", 140 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. At the time, she wore a black spaghetti strap style top, light blue jeans, and red tennis shoes. And that is the end of the article. This result does not surprise me at all. Very sad. Very sad. All of you, most of you have been listening to Unfound for a long time. And I think by this point, you know the signs of this kind of disappearance. Somebody driving somewhere, mysteriously, their phone loses contact. And that not long after the phone loses service, the car is found somewhere and the person is nowhere to be seen. As I didn't go back and listen to what I had to say from that Unfound Now from a year ago, but the odds of her driving from one state to another and running into someone who would harm her are so minuscule. I know it happens, but the odds of that happening, even in a country of 330 million people, is so rare. So rare. And also, what are the odds that she loses phone reception accidentally, but then also she goes missing by foul play? It just doesn't seem like those two things would go together. And I think I also remember at the time that they had done some pinging of her phone or something, and it said she might have been going out of her way. She really wasn't following the correct route from Louisiana to Colorado. These are all signs that somebody is causing his or her own disappearance. And especially given that her vehicle was left behind, and now we know that she was found near the vehicle. The question, of course, the big question, I have it right here in my notes, is why do these things happen? And I don't have a good answer for you. I can look at the person. What do I say? Disappearances are all about people. They are not about circumstances. And still, it's hard to understand why these things happen. Why people we had another Unfound Now that was same thing. Remember the young man driving from Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, somewhere, maybe North Dakota, one of those states up there, was driving coincidentally to Louisiana to start a new life-changing job. He's going to live with a friend he had made down there. And what happens? He gets to Arkansas, pulls over to the side of the road, walks off into the woods, and is dead. And there's no suspicion that there was foul play either. What happens in these circumstances? I don't know. Why do you drive all of that way? What is going through these people's minds? I don't know. Did they know that they were going to get halfway through their trips and then cause their own disappearances and die? I don't know. Was this planned all along? Did they have some sort of panic attack? Were they doing drugs? Were they getting high? Was this some adverse reaction to something while they were on the road? Did them driving by themselves cause some sort of psychosis or something. Maybe, a lot of people, humans for the most part, I'm not, but humans for the most part are social animals. We need to be around other humans and have that interaction and those emotions and that energy and everything else. Me, I'm the opposite. As I've stated many times, in this condo where I live, I could go days without ever leaving this condo, never be within, I don't know, 100 feet, unless there's somebody else on this floor above me or below me, within 100 feet of another person, and it wouldn't bother me at all. But most people are not like that. So is that what happens? Do some people get out on the road by themselves and, all these kind of thoughts start rolling around in their heads? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know why Caitlin Case, but all I can be sure of is that there was no foul play here. But I can't tell you if she planned to do this or this was just something that popped into her head or whatever on the way to Colorado. Did she really have any intentions of going to Colorado? Did this young man from the northern United States, I forget what state it was, did he really have every intention of moving to New Orleans? He packed his vehicle. He was driving in that direction. For some reason, he pulled over to the side of the road and then ended up dead. And nobody believes that he was murdered. I don't know. I realize that having driven across the United States a few times, even for myself, that can get a little daunting. If you really start thinking about how far you're going to be driving and all of that, and having driven several times now that I live in Florida, between Florida and Pennsylvania, back and forth, these times, especially after I got my Hyundai Sonata, which is a very reliable car, and I wasn't afraid to do that. Driving up through all of those states and being out there and driving like I did sometimes at 3 a.m. out in the middle of nowhere, in Virginia or West Virginia or something. I mean, it can get a little weird. And you have to really have your wits about you. Is that what happened? These people just kind of lose their minds. They let their fears get to them. Maybe. I don't know. It's very sad. But this result does not surprise me at all. Of course, the big issue is, if this is the situation, why wasn't she found originally? Well, I think it's right there in the article. Found on private land. Probably when they did this search for her around her car at the time, they didn't go on private land. It took a private owner going on his own property or her own property, walking around and just happening upon her. So, and I think that this is one of those points that I think we've all learned about that over the past 7 years, is one of the main reasons that searches fail. A lot of searches don't go on private property. So very sad, but I'm not surprised. I just don't have a good answer for you as to why it happened. I knew that it happened. I still don't know why it happened. I would have to know a lot more about Caitlin. Caitlin, of course, if she did have a drug issue, or maybe she thought, well, I'm driving all that weed, I need to take some speed or something. Who knows what that can do to your head driving out there in the middle of the night? Who knows? I don't do those things, but I don't know. So that's just recent news. That's recent news regarding Caitlin Rose case, who was the topic of an Unfound Now. I'm going to say it was September or October of 2022. So about a year ago. A lot of rumors out there where she got picked up. She got sex trafficked. It's even mentioned in this article. And I never thought that for 1 second, despite people talking about this stuff. When you hear those things, you just have to dismiss them. If there's proof of it, of course, we got to entertain the idea. But there was surely no proof of that in Caitlin's disappearance. And just like maybe going back to Arlen Bynum's disappearance, kind of that same thinking, because people, maybe the public doesn't understand that, yes, people really do walk off by themselves for reasons that still are very hard to understand, but it does happen. This is why last week, Twinkle, was it last week or the week before when you were asking me, you brought up that other podcast and they were saying only 1% of disappearances are people who have walked off. It's so much larger. It's at least 10%. It's another one. It's very sad. And I really think that we have to get a handle on this. Although I have no statistical proof, I'm inclined to think that this has a lot to do with the addiction issue and the suicide issue we have in the United States. I think it's anchored in that somewhere. But I don't know if there's any studies that have been done on that, but that's my suspicion. So Kathy's keeping us updated on the game, and Cherie can't be happy. Texas is up now, saying 8-2. Oh no, Cherie. Oh no. Charlene over there in Ireland. Hello, everyone. Hi, Ed. Hello to you, Charlene. Charlene, one of my favorite woman names. Hope you're all having a great day. It's 2:34 a.m. in Ireland. I wouldn't miss this awesome Unfound Live. I'm trying to tune everything. Thank you, Charlene, for staying up late. Yep, Twinkle. I think driving by themselves is a factor. I think so too, Twinkle. We just don't know what is going on there. What would we see if there was like a GoPro camera or something set up in the car and everything that the person couldn't shut off, and it also had volume, had audio? What would we hear? What would we see? It's hard to say, but I think it would help us. And Stacy says it happens a lot. Veronica says, yes, driving in those mountains can be weird. Yeah, driving in Virginia, West Virginia at like 3 a.m. Weird. I experienced that when I drove to Illinois last summer for Worlds, PDGA Masters Worlds, going up to see my buddy Dave and his family, going through like Tennessee in that area, going, there's no lights. It's just you and the highway. And you really have to, like I said, you really have to have your wits about you. You really do. Screaming says tomorrow will be 70 years since the disappearance of Evelyn Hartley. Wow. Thank you for letting us know. Screaming, 70 years, 1953, just before Halloween, 1953, La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I still don't know what I'm supposed to think about that disappearance. Was she targeted, or was she just in the wrong place at the wrong time? I have to admit, I continue to lean toward the idea that she was targeted. But if somebody wants to say she's wrong place, wrong time, then I can live with that too. New Mexico, very strange place to be at 3 a.m. I've been through Mexico at 3 a.m. Cherie, driving across the United States. That's true too. Driving like that makes me feel lonely and vulnerable. Yeah. Yep, Twinkle, you're right about that. And it's totally, when you get out, of course, more than, I forget what the percentage is, but it has to be 50% or a large percentage of the population of the United States is east of the Mississippi. We got all that land out in the West, and having lived there for so many years, there's so much land where there is nobody. Nobody. Like, you're driving from Las Vegas to California. You get out there past State Line, Nevada, and you're going southwest into California. There is nothing. And if you're going up into Arizona, there is nothing. Whereas it's even, I know West Virginia, some of those areas going up toward Pennsylvania can be a little desolate, but it's a totally different kind of driving experience driving on the East Coast to the West Coast. Because the East Coast is so populated. We still haven't gotten, the United States still has not caught past its founding, where a large part of the population came from across the Atlantic Ocean in contrast to coming across the Pacific Ocean. It might be very different. If the founding people who populated this, I know Native Americans were here, I get it. But the United States would look a lot different if that had been discovered from the West Coast, or had been people had moved to the West Coast instead of the East Coast. That would be very interesting, I think. Mental health, Stacy says, Veronica, my name is your favorite lady name. Veronica is also a fantastic name. Charlene and Veronica, I don't know why. I don't know why. Lisa, that was me quoting the podcast that said 1%. Oh, that was you, Lisa, not Twinkle. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for clarifying. It was not Twinkle. It was Lisa. They don't know missing persons case like you do. Well, few do. It's only because I've put so much time into it. So, and I appreciate that, Lisa. So there you go. The disappearance, and it seems discovery, of Caitlin Rose case. Very sad, but something I suspected. I've been moving on. I've been wanting to bring up this story. This actually has a happy ending where a woman went missing and then she was eventually found, but I do want to comment on it. This has to do with a songwriter who had written I guess a well-known song for Katy Perry, Walking on Air. I know a few Katy Perry songs. I will admit that. I don't think this was one that I know, but I'm just going to read the article. Friends of Camilla Lairth Segura are trying to get the word out about the singer-songwriter and sometimes model who is best known for co-writing Katy Perry's Walking on Air. The Sweden-born musician was last seen on June 29th, according to a missing persons report posted by the Office of the California Attorney General, Rob Bonita. Friend Liz Montgomery posted the following plea on Instagram. We are desperately seeking information on the whereabouts of our dear friend and sister, Camilla Lairth, who may also be using the name Camilla Lairth Segura. Camilla has been missing since June 29th, and her last known contact was in Beverly Hills, California. Montgomery continues, we're extremely worried about her safety, and despite our best efforts, the local authorities have not been able to locate her. The post asks that any information be sent to, and I'm not going to give out the email address because she has been found alive. Montgomery told KABC that Lairth's sister got in touch with her asking if she had seen the singer. Montgomery then filed a missing persons report with Beverly Hills police. Lairth's landlord told the outlet that she had recently been evicted, and friends and neighbors indicate she was struggling to make rent. So a woman who was a model, and she's not young. I think she was like in her early 40s, writing a song for Katy Perry. She had to get paid for that, at least get the residuals, hopefully. And she's having trouble with her rent and everything. Walking on Air was co-written by Perry Lairth, Klaus Alnid, Max Martin, Adam Baptiste, and described as a deep house and disco tune with 90s Eurovision vibes. Never heard the tune. The only song, not the only one, but one of the ones I have to admit, the one song that comes to carry that I Kissed a Girl and I liked it, that song. The track was the second single off of Perry's fourth album, Prism. It debuted at number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100 and debuted at number 8 on Billboard Hot Digital Songs in October 2013. So that song did pretty well. But so here's the update. After missing for 3 months, so she went missing on June 29th. So July 29th would be 1 month. August 29th would be 2 months. September 29th, 3 months. So this story is about a month old now. After missing for 3 months, Camilla Lairth Segura has been found alive and safe. Cecilia Foss, a friend of the Swedish model and singer who co-wrote Katy Perry's Walking on Air, confirmed she was found in California. It doesn't say where. I want to let all of you know that my friend Camilla, who had been missing for the past 3 months, was found yesterday. Her family has asked for privacy, and I can't share any of the details, but she is safe now. Thank you to everyone who helped look for her and share her story, and to the Beverly Hills Police Department for doing an incredible job finding her. I mean, this has been on the agenda and it's been getting pushed back. Finally, I get to it. I have to admit, I can't help but think this is probably drug related. And if not, certainly mental health related. Where was she for 3 months? Was she living on the streets? Was she holed up in some drug house? Was she being held against her will? Did she go somewhere with somebody and didn't tell anybody? You know, when you start hearing things about her not being in contact with anybody and her getting evicted and everything, these are what come to my mind. Because you have to understand, as I'm sure you're aware, these days, it takes a lot to get evicted if you're a renter. It takes a lot. In fact, I'm sure the people who rent rooms and or places like that would say that the laws are, favor the renter too much. Don't help the renter too much and are against the landlord. You get somebody in there who's been paying rent, and it's very, very difficult to get the person out. You can see those stories all over the internet. So that she got evicted probably tells me that she had not been paying her rent for quite a while. So what's going on? And like I said, it got to be an addiction, got to be mental health issues, or combination of both. I would find it weird that she got evicted and then she was actually staying at some friend's house and everything was peachy keen. That probably doesn't sound like to me. She very well could have been homeless. And that's, of course, scary to think about too. And hello, Fairy Magic. What's going on? Hello, Fairy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in tonight. Twinkle saying maybe she did it for publicity. Twinkle, that's not a crazy thought. It's not. This is Hollywood after all. This is Beverly Hills after all. People do a lot of strange things for publicity and get their names into the news. We know too many people out there will do publicity stunts. We know that a lot of these people who are just, on the D list, they aren't A-list people, but D list, they'll do anything to get a story written about them. And so, Twinkle, that's not a crazy thought. The truth is, Twinkle, it would actually be better if it was that. I hope it was that, and it's not that she has an addiction and that she's having mental health issues. I actually hope it, I don't like thinking of it that way because that I hate people who fake disappearances and things like that. But for her personally, if she's going to be around the earth for the next 40 years, let's say, I'm hoping that this was not caused by an addiction, or I hope it was something else. But we can't rule it out given that it is Hollywood, it is Beverly Hills, California, and these people are obsessed with something like that. Fairy says maybe she was in rehab. That would be good too. It just seems to me, Fairy, that if that was the situation, might that not be something that was made public? I think people are. It's once again, it's one of those Hollywood things. Would you rather think people thought you were in rehab, or would you rather think people, think you were homeless? Yeah, I don't see, of course, easy for me to talk. I don't have any problems like that. But for some people, maybe there is the stigma. I don't want people to know that I went to rehab. Very well could be. I guess it's something to think about. But so I wanted to get to that. She is alive. She's been found. And I guess we're never going to know what happened. Maybe she blew all the money she made from helping write that hit single. Seems like she would have friends in the biz to help her out, but here she is getting evicted. I have to believe this had something to do with drugs. I gotta believe that, and then that could lead to. Hey, we all learned more than we would have ever known about Joanna Good regarding Bo Mann's disappearance. Remember Joanna Good, who died at the beginning of this year, was linked to Bo Mann's disappearance. It was her address that he put into in his Uber app, and we may never know exactly the connection and all that. We may never know. All we know that was Bo Mann was found under circumstances that surprised all of us, and where he was found, everything else. But remember Joanna Good, that at one time when she was 20 years old, 21, 22, she had her time in the limelight, being a model, being an actress. She was in that one very, very well-known episode of Married with Children, where she was competing against Kelly Bundy to be that model for the Cadillac Alante. And you can even see it on YouTube. In fact, I think I posted that or a picture of her when Bo Mann's episode came out earlier this year. And then at some point, just things go badly. I don't understand it. As a heterosexual man who is attracted to women and all of that, I just, guys, we're self-destructive. There are reasons that you have all these crazy videos of people doing stunts, and even going back into the Jackass days and all of that on MTV and everything. There's a reason that all the people who do that are men. There's a reason. And so I expect that of guys getting into trouble, guys getting, and doing stupid things. And even me, I've done some crazy things that I don't like to talk about to this day, that I'm not necessarily ashamed of them, but, but when it comes to women, I have to say, once again, as a guy who's attracted to women, I highly respect women. As you know, most of my assistants that help me with the podcast and all these other things we do at Unfound are women. I really respect their opinions, and I want to hear their input and everything. When I hear about women, just going downhill and getting involved in drugs and everything, it just breaks my heart. Guys, I just kind of expect it. It's horrible. It's horrible. And and this is why I do this podcast. And I hope I can help these families out. But as a guy, I guess I just look at these things just a little bit differently in some way. That just So maybe that is what happened to Camilla. Maybe the exact same thing that happened to Joanna Good. These women on top of the world. And just getting mixed up and stuff. It just sounds like what happened to Camilla. And I hope she works her way out of it. Rockford, hello, back in action or crazy, but fun. Yeah, I've been wondering, Rockford, where you've been. You haven't been in a couple last think tanks and stuff. I was wondering, where is Rockford? And there he is. I'll bet a drug bender. So Rockford's going with the drug bender for Camilla. Yeah. Imagine it's very difficult for young, beautiful women to age. A profession is all about the looks. It is. It's true. That's why I have to admit, as a man, women want to go get all sorts of quote unquote work done, everything. Fine by me. No judgment at all. Whatever you want to do, fine by me. I know a lot of women take it too far. And look, but you want to do that, go ahead. Fine by me. No judgment at all. All right. So that was a story that I've been wanting to cover. So I'm going to move on to this, especially since it was in the title for tonight's live show. There is an update in the Delphi murder trial that's supposed to be coming up. And it's from when Allen's Superior Judge Fran Gall took the bench a half hour later than anticipated Thursday afternoon. This is past Thursday. So 4 days ago, to announce the Delphi defendant Richard Allen's defense was stepping down. There was an audible gasp, mostly from social media watchers got a lot of social media people in the courtroom. From my location in the gallery seated behind Allen's wife and another woman, I had watched the comings and goings of the attorneys and family the previous half hour and suspected the judge was going to show the lawyers the door. Judge Gall was displeased and forced to call today's hearing after she learned a few weeks ago that a leak of sensitive crime scene evidence from one of Allen's attorneys made its way to the Delphi social media posters. Shouldn't be posting that stuff, people. Shouldn't be doing it. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin then engaged his own legal counsel, veteran Indianapolis barrister David Hennessy, to plead his case before the judge. So the defense attorney is getting his own attorney. That's awesome. Hennessy never got the chance, even though he filed a motion just 4 hours before the scheduled hearing, describing his client as snookered and abused by a former employee who had unauthorized access to the evidence that he then immediately passed on to a Facebook Delphi follower. I have to tell you, I hate this stuff. People within the true crime community, so desperate to post stuff. So desperate. It's with no ethics whatsoever. Zero. None. Nada. Zilch. Hennessy further argued that to remove Baldwin from the case after he and Allen had built up a rapport would be an extreme remedy for an alleged or perceived violation of the court's order to secure access to the evidence shared under discovery. Hennessy's motion also confirmed that one of the participants in the social media leak of evidence took his own life last week. What to tell you? Fox 59, CBS 4 has learned that the death occurred after the man was questioned by investigators about his role in the leak. You shouldn't be doing that stuff. Should be not taking part in leaks for trials at evidence and stuff like that. You should not be doing that. I don't know what to tell you. Carroll County prosecutor Nicholas McClelland and the defense attorneys entered Judge Gall's chambers for a powwow at 12:30 p.m. as Hennessy sat on a bench in the hallway waiting to be summoned. And just so you know, this goes back to, going back to the leak of the audio of the proceedings in Hemphill County back in 2020. Remember that? And we now know that Nathan Lewis, I don't know if it was illegal or immoral, but it was certainly unethical. And then he gave that recording to the publisher of the local Canadian Texas newspaper. Remember that? And it got out and everything. What did I say at the time? Had that been given to me, I wouldn't have touched it. There's no way that I would have made that public. Now, I heard it. Somebody did send it to me, but I did not make it public. Can't be doing that stuff. Cannot be doing that stuff. Too many people want to do it. As the 2 p.m. starting time passed, it was obvious that talks were continuing. The results would be potentially significant. Allen's wife, Kathy, was seated in the courtroom as she had been at all his hearings and was escorted into a back hallway to speak with her husband. Minutes later, she emerged, choking back tears, and then defense attorney Bradley Rossi motioned Kathy and a friend to exit the courtroom for a private conversation, for which they did not return. Baldwin and Rossi were spotted transitioning in the hallway from the judge's chambers to Allen's holding area, and Hennessy, who was prepared to defend his client Baldwin in the courtroom debate over the leak, also disappeared in the back hallway. Minutes later, sheriff's deputies signaled that Judge Gall was about to enter the courtroom. As she settled in behind the bench, the judge announced that Baldwin was voluntarily withdrawing from the case. Rozzi would submit his withdrawal in the days to come, and all evidence held by the defense team would return to the prosecution. There would be a hearing on October 31st in Delphi to announce the new lawyers who would represent Allen and a new date for the start of the trial next year. So Mr. Allen, after all of this, after being charged and all of this working up to a trial, he now has to get new legal representation. Now, I will offer up something on this. I'm not trying to say I'm a fortune teller or a palm reader. I could see the future. But I have to admit, a couple weeks ago, when on this live show, I talked about, the Odin stuff. And this was that last week or 2 weeks ago? I forget now. But all about the pagan ritual and everything else. I do have to admit to myself, I was thinking, this sounds to me like a couple lawyers who are trying to get out of representing this case. This sounds to me like a couple of guys who have just had enough of the whole proceeding and are trying to find an ethical way out of this. Now, of course, it seems like they found an unethical way out of this, but it all sounded so outrageous that I was thinking these guys cannot be serious. To quote John McEnroe, you cannot be serious. And so being that just came out recently, and now this, I have to admit, I see these things as being intertwined somehow. I realize that, it very well may be that they found out, the pagan ritual murder idea wasn't outrageous enough. No, that wasn't enough for us to get out of this. So I guess we're going to leak some material and then to make sure we really, really, really don't have to go through this trial. This is still going through my head. And although they may be fighting or whatever, I can't help but think that they're at home tonight thinking, thank God we don't have to do that anymore. I'm just telling you. I'm not saying there's necessarily any evidence of that. But when that pagan ritual thing started, I was like, these guys are looking to be kicked out or something. These guys are hoping that the judge is going to say to them, we don't think you're giving Mr. Allen very good representation. We're going to kick you out, or he's going to have to get different representation. This is something that was going through my mind re all of this. So I can't say I'm necessarily totally surprised by this. Stacy asks, isn't most of your audience women? Yes. According to the statistics that I have, Stacy, 80% of Unfound's audience is women, and that is consistent across most true crime platforms, that it's overwhelmingly women. That is true. Twinkle says the Delphi case is in a mess. True. Rockford is in your former hometown of Las Vegas, leaving on Tuesday. Avoid the mess on the 15th. Is the new leaving on Monday. Where are you staying at? What have you been doing in my former city, the city I love so much of Las Vegas, Rockford? What have you been doing there? Inquiring minds want to know. Twinkle, I don't know if we need laws or what, but the outrageous public posting, outrageous behavior by attorneys needs to stop. I know. I'm going to stick by what I said. I think these guys wanted to get out of it. Ed, where was your 711 located in Las Vegas, Tropicana? I think where was your 7-Eleven located in Vegas? Valerie, I will tell you this, the two 7-Elevens that I managed in my, what we call the training phase of working at 7-Eleven are not 7-Elevens anymore. One of them was on Sunset Road near Mountain Vista. It's right next to the big car wash there. There's also a Goodyear tire place. There's a convenience store in between the car wash and the Goodyear tire place. That used to be a 7-Eleven. That's one of the ones I had some of the worst times of my life in that building right there. And then the other one was at Where was it? It was at Jones in Decatur. And it was next to a PT's pub. It was kind of it wasn't a standalone building. It was like in a little shopping mall area. And I saw some outrageous things. And that was another scary part of town too. I was also at that one. So Sunset Road near Mountain Vista, not a 7-Eleven anymore. And the other one, like I said, I think it's at Jones. Is it Tropicana in Decatur? I don't think it was Tropicana in Decatur. I think it was Jones in Decatur on the southeast corner of the intersection, I think. I think it was that. I have to go check that. But it's not a 7-Eleven either anymore either. So there you go. So if you want to look those up, Valerie. And then when I actually became a consultant for those few months with 7-Eleven, I was mainly responsible for those 7-Elevens like down Tropicana over to Flamingo, like in the Eastern Maryland Parkway area. So there's 2 7-Elevens. I don't know if they're 7-Elevens anymore, that are right across the street on Tropicana, like not too far from the strip. And I was responsible for those 2. And then once again, going over like toward Flamingo area, those were mine at one time. And then also the one down at Russell and Mountain Vista, which I don't think is a 7-Eleven anymore either. Man, I don't know how I remember this stuff. Those were horrible days, Valerie. Horrible, but I remember them well. It reminds me, keeps reminding me that how horrible that time was. You think Twinkle thinks that Mr. Allen's rights have been violated? I certainly, if evidence was leaked, that's certainly true, Twinkle. Mark, the judge was rumored to be furious over the 136-page memorandum that they filed with the pagan stuff in it. But everything I have heard, Allen liked his attorneys, and the attorneys wanted to keep it. Yeah, well. I'm sure Allen liked that, because then it would point, I guess, away from him. I don't know. It still sounds to me like attorneys doing poor jobs, hoping that someone would relieve them of their duties. Mark, you're right, Twinkle. It's hard to justify not giving a defendant the representation that he's comfortable with, regardless of how controversial it is. These defense attorneys are bad news. This was a tough case, but I think the police made it tougher with their rather strange press conferences and the social media stuff. Also, what didn't help Rockford, they named like 10 different suspects before they got to Richard Allen. You know, these names and faces they were putting out there and everything. And I realized that there are many people that still don't believe that, you know, Allen is like the main guy regarding all of this. Hazel asks, what is 7-Eleven? 7-Eleven, I'm talking about a convenience store chain all over the world, Hazel. That was a job that I had when I worked in Las Vegas. And I've, in the past, I've talked about my experiences there. I could write a book, a book that none of you, I have so many outrageous true stories from working at 7-Eleven you would not even begin to realize. And just working there 10 months, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. I don't know. He worked at 7-Eleven. Lucky it was short-lived. It was short. Just wondering, because I live here in Vegas. Yeah, go check out those locations, Valerie. Sunset Road near Mountain Vista. Decatur, I think Jones and Decatur. I will get on a map and check that, but I think it was Jones and Decatur. It was certainly Decatur. It's either Jones or Tropicana. I can't pick which one right now. Rockford, staying in Airbnb in Summerlin. That's a nice area, close to extended family. Partly birthday weekend boondoggle and partly family vacation. Lots of sports bets and Tito's, but also wholesome family time. Yep, I've been up to Summerlin. Summerlin, where everybody rides around in golf carts. Mark, one of the named Odin's sons was also dating one of the girls. Odin's. Crazy. Okay. Just when you thought a religion was dead, it comes back with a vengeance. Kathy Rockford, hope everyone is having a great time. Yeah, of course. All right. Moving on. Once again, something I have to get to because I put it in the title for tonight's Unfound Live, but it's a huge story. I have to talk about it. Natalee Holloway. I'm not going to read the entire article that I have because it's long, but I'll start it and then I'll just pick out a point where I want to stop. Hazel says, ooh, write a book. Hazel, if I only had the time. Natalee, maybe I'll put that in my memoirs. If I live to be like 80 years old, Hazel, maybe I'll put it in my memoirs. I have like 10 stories that, I could go like 150 pages with those 10 stories. Easy. It's so crazy. Jorn Vandersloot has finally admitted to killing Alabama teen Natalee Holloway 18 years ago, bludgeoning her to death on a darkened beach with a cinder block after she fought off his sexual advances. The shocking admission was revealed by prosecutors Wednesday, so last Wednesday, 5 days ago, in an Alabama courtroom before Vandersloot pled guilty to extorting money from the missing teen's mother, Beth Holloway. Remember, he's here in the United States. It's not about the disappearance. It was about them extorting. Remember, he was out in the United States and he was saying, hey, Holloways, if you give me money, I'll tell you where Natalee is. And that's how he got in trouble for that. The Dutch citizen, 36, and of course, he's been in jail, what was in Chile, Peru, Bolivia, wherever it was, for the murder of another woman. The Dutch citizen has long been the prime suspect in the 18-year-old's disappearance. The blonde-haired beauty went missing during a high school graduation trip with classmates. She was last seen on May 30th, 2005, leaving a bar with Vandersloot. Although he hasn't been charged in Holloway's death, his confession has brought closure to a case that has captivated the nation for nearly 2 decades. As far as I'm concerned, it's over, Beth Holloway told reporters outside the federal courthouse in Alabama. Vandersloot is no longer the suspect in daughter's murder. He is the killer. The shattered mom also revealed that Vandersloot confessed to her that he went home and watched porn after taking her daughter's life. Vandersloot confessed to the killing earlier this month as part of a plea deal for extortion and wire fraud after asking family for $250,000 to reveal the location of her body. He was sentenced Wednesday to 20 years in prison to run concurrently with a 28-year sentence he's serving in Peru and the 2010 slaying of Stephanie Flores. You changed the course of our lives and you turned them upside down, Beth Holloway said at the sentencing, standing a few feet from her daughter's killer. You are a killer. I want you to remember that every time that jail cell door slams. At one point, the brave mom even turned to stare directly at the man who callously stole her daughter's life. You look like hell, Jorn, she said. In Vandersloot's confession prior to the sentencing, he detailed how he started kissing Holloway on the beach in Aruba after a date in a local bar. I started filling her up again, and she tells me no. She tells me she doesn't want to. I'll keep this PG. The American teen need him in the crotch, enraging the killer. He said he knocked her out by kicking her extremely hard in the face. Vandersloot then grabbed a nearby cinder block. I smashed her head in with it completely, then carried her battered body knee deep into the surf and let her float out into the sea, he said. Vandersloot has already been arrested in Aruba twice on suspicion of Holloway's murder, but ultimately released for lack of evidence. Her body was never found, but a judge had declared her dead. Judge Anna Manasco required him to come clean on the teen's death to get the deal. You have brutally murdered in separate instances, years apart, 2 young women who refused your sexual advances. Holloway's disappearance on what was supposed to be a celebratory trip with friends to Aruba drew widespread attention. She was last seen leaving in Orangestad Par with Vandersloot before their deadly walk along the beach. Prosecutors in the extortion case said Vandersloot agreed to take $25,000 from Beth Holloway for disclosing the location of her body, with another $225,000 due upon the discovery of her remains. In a 2010 sworn statement to the FBI, the confessed killer said Holloway's body was buried under gravel behind a house near the Aruba Racket Club, but later admitted it was a lie. I got to tell you, I wouldn't believe a word this guy says. No doubt he killed her. But I just find no reason to believe that's how it happened. I can certainly believe that he made sexual advances on her. I can certainly believe that, she tried to stop him. But everything after that, We've got, the thing is, we've kind of gotten into this, and being that in a little bit before we're done tonight, I'm going to be talking about Tiffany Daniels. I can't reveal everything. Most of what I talked to her mother about, one wasn't on Saturday evening. But, we've come up against this before, like with Tiffany Daniels, because her vehicle is found up there on the Panhandle next to the Gulf of Mexico. We ran into this with J.R. Mullihan and his disappearance, where his vehicle was found in North Carolina on the beach of, near, right next to the Atlantic Ocean. And we are asked to really try to understand how water works. And it's when it comes to rivers, I think we have a general understanding. We don't have a scientific understanding, but we have a general understanding that if a body goes into a fast-flowing river, like we've talked about, like with Jake LaChapelle or Shane Fell, I'm not saying that they necessarily went into the river. I personally believe they did. If you don't believe that, fine by me. But we all understand that if bodies goes into rivers, especially ones like the Mississippi River, the Colorado River, the Delaware River, the Amazon River, rivers in other countries, on other continents, these big, big rivers, we realize the body's going downstream. Now, it may eventually go to the shore and get hung up in some limbs or whatever else, and it still may never be found, but we understand the generalities of that. It's going to go with the water. And we also understand if the river is very slow, like the Allegheny River in Pennsylvania, not quite like the Mississippi, maybe there is a much better chance that the body won't go far. But when it comes to bodies going into stationary bodies of water, like the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean Sea, which would be, or where is Aruba? I don't know. The Atlantic Ocean or wherever you're going into the shore, would not that body eventually come back to shore? How far? Now, of course, the question is, would a human body under these conditions float? Would it sink? Would it sink and then come back to the surface? I guess there's a lot of dynamics there. But, as I remind all of you once in a while, I live on the shore. I mean, right behind me is the balcony, not to brag, but like 500 feet from that window right there is the Gulf of Mexico. I can see it. I see that, and I see how it is. And I'm not convinced that if you went out there and put, let's say, a mannequin to symbolize a body, to be a likeness of a human body out there, I'm not convinced that it would float away. I think it eventually would come back to shore. But he's saying that he took her out into the water and she floated away. So he's a killer, and we have learned so many times that these people lie. I mean, so many disappearances Unfound is covered where people in jail are talking, oh yeah, the body's here, the body's there. These people just make stuff up just to get the attention, just to, it's their kind of a confession, even though they had nothing to do with the disappearance. They get out of the jail cell for one day. Maybe they get a lunch from McDonald's instead of the prison food and everything else. Lots of reasons people do this. And so this is kind of where I am on this. She's dead. And I'm not even sure in the end how much worse, it matters if we believe this killer or not. But I want you to know that I think we just generally always have to be cynical of these things. I don't think it's, nobody in this audience is surprised that he killed her. I think everybody knows that. And everybody's known that. I mean, you'd really, really, really have to be ignorant not to believe that. But that doesn't mean when he gets in there and says that is actually what happened. So, like I said, I'm Mr. Cynic, and I'm just wondering how all of you feel about that. Rockford, go to the Parade of Mischief. It's fun Halloween. It's free in Summerlin. Okay. There you go. People giving you do write very well, by the way. Oh, thanks, Hazel. I appreciate that. Millions and millions and millions and millions of words through these fingers, Hazel. Trust me. 10-2 Texas top of the show. Sherry, I'm so sorry for you. Vandersloot is one sick puppy. So glad her mom got an answer. Marty, I'm pretty sure he was only admitted it now because statute of limitation expired in Aruba. He used it to his advantage. Horrible human being. I don't believe Vandersloot's story either. Mark, it's obvious he killed her, but I don't think we are any closer than we ever were to knowing any specifics from him. Right. Valerie, yes, look how far you've come from those days. Now we all get to hear Unfound. I mean, from the 7-Eleven days. Yeah, who would have thunk it? Podcasting wasn't even a thing when I was 25 years ago when I was at 7-Eleven. 25 years. Where does it go? 25 years ago, October of 1998, I was working at that 7-Eleven, managing that 7-Eleven at Sunset Road near Mountain Vista. Go check it out, Valerie. I went through hell in that building. I was just a kid, 28 years old. Oh, it was horrible. Twinkle, I would think he prefers an American prison as opposed to a Peruvian prison. Maybe it could be, though, that he's a big deal in the Peruvian prison and gets lots of privileges there. Maybe, text Twinkle. Rockford, Vandersloot is one of those killers whom I believe no amount of early intervention was going to change. He was going to do things like this because that's how he's wired, like Bundy. Yeah. What would be interesting to know, of course, we know that he killed 2 women. I guess we have to be open to the idea that he might have killed other women too that just haven't put it all together maybe yet. I think that's highly possible. But I would like to know, are these the only 2 women who ever rejected his advances? What about all these women who lived to tell their tale after having a run-in with him? These are the things that as you've heard me bring up before regarding disappearances. What was it about that time that caused that person to disappear in contrast to all the other times? I've mentioned this, for example, with some of these wives who went missing, and then these men go on to marry other women, and those women don't disappear. This one woman that we believe the guy killed her, she disappears, but all these other women he was involved with, they're still alive. What was the difference? It's something that I'm always going to think about. So for this killer, Vandersloot, I think about the same thing. There were surely women that he had sex with, or he tried to have sex with, however you want to put it, trying to keep it PG. And those women didn't die. He didn't hit them with cinder blocks or whatever else. What was the difference? It would be interesting to think about that. Just don't know. Just something one that comes to my mind. What is one different? Is it drugs? Was it just mood? Was it alcohol? Was it in particular something, for example, with Natalee or this other woman, I guess her name is Stephanie? Is there something that each of them said that really pushed one of his hot buttons or something? I wonder. Marty, might have been Natalee's level of intoxication, maybe unable to defend herself. That could be. Twinkle, could be that where she kicked him, it set him off. That could be too. Maybe that's it. Could be. And I have to admit, there's another. The other thing that comes to mind is that surely we have to be open to the idea, because he got away with Natalee's murder in 2005, that it made it easier to kill that other woman in 2010. And also, he got caught pretty easily with the murder of the woman in Peru. Very, very sloppy on that one. In contrast to, with, of course, Natalee, whatever he did, he made her disappear that nobody's found her. That one, a lot of evidence was left behind. But with the Peruvian murder, certainly different. But I think I gotta believe, being that he got away with killing Natalee, it made the Peru woman easier to kill, even though it was much riskier, and he ended up getting caught a lot easier. Once again, just something that's going through my mind on all of this. Because as this crime statistics show, who are the people that are most likely to kill people? People who have killed before and didn't get caught. Or they did get caught, went to jail, got out, and then they kill again. People are most likely to kill people are people who've killed before. Remember that. Once a person kills somebody and kind of breaks open that, whatever it is, that psyche, that restriction in the mind, it's very easy to get past that restriction again. Got to remember that. All right. So, very, very sad. And one more thing I have to admit, I think what we would call Natalee Holloway's disappearance, and we know murder, was really kind of what we might call a touchstone event, in that was one of those cases where it brought in a lot of people who really don't follow true crime at all. Of course, 2005, that was before true crime. Of course, true crime existed. There was books by Ann Rule, and there was Unsolved Mysteries and all that. But podcasting didn't exist yet. There weren't any YouTube channels with true crime and all of that. And really, like the Lifetime channel and all these Oxygen Network didn't become true crime, have all this true crime programming on it till much after 2005. But you could say that Natalee Holloway's disappearance in Aruba is what started all of that. You really could. I think if you look at the timeline and all that, it was a touchstone event that a lot of things changed. You could say that about the podcast Serial. Serial, even though I've never listened to it, it opened the world to people going to microphones and talking about murders and serial killers and everything else. Well, now the way I look at Natalee Holloway's murder is that it really began this thing in which true crime programming started on channels that you never saw crime programming ever before. Which is something about it very well could be, it very, very well, let's just admit it, very well may be just because she was an attractive white girl. Let's just admit it. And she's from the United States. Very, very possible. It's disgusting, but very, very possible. But then I think it also has to do with the Holloways themselves. As high profile as they have been over the years, I think that also what also added to it was that it happened in another country, on an island, on an exotic island where you think those things don't happen, but this did. I think that added to it. I think that also added to it, here she was on a school trip with friends and everything. All of it kind of just all came together, that it got a lot of attention, and really, I think, started when you go to, like I said, the Oxygen channel and all these different channels now. Really think this is what started it. The way I look at it, even though I will say, really did not follow it that much. You know that I've been into disappearances for a very, very long time. Very, very, very long time. I've gone over and over, answered that question many times. But Natalee Holloway's disappearance was not one that really I followed that much. Jennifer Kessie's, yes. Mara Murray's, yes, which all happened around that same time, 2004, 2005, 2006, that time frame. Those were ones, just as a casual observer, a part of the public like all of you are, at that time, those ones got more of my attention than Natalee Holloway's disappearance did. And even going back to the 1990s, Jody Huisentruit's disappearance, as far as women go. But then when it comes to men, yes, Brian Schaefer went missing also caught my attention. But Natalee Holloway's was never, high up on it. I wasn't rushing, for new news when that all happened back in the day. But I know for many of you, it was a little bit different. Kathy says, I doubt Natalee did anything other than maybe ignoring him or trying to get away. He's a predator. Yeah, very. I think, yes, some women say or do something that challenges his masculinity, and the guy reacts in a more violent way than other women might. Is scary. That could be. Could be. Maybe that is the key to these disappearances, where we know the men have surely killed their wives or girlfriends, and then they went on to marry other women, maybe multiple times, and have girlfriends, and none of those women are murdered or go missing. It's just one time in one instant, and we'll never know, probably, even if we find a woman's remains, probably never know what exactly happened on that particular day. Frustrating. Twinkle, I agree. Twinkle agrees with Fairy on that. Okay. All right, let's move on to this. As I stated some minutes ago, I can't talk too much about it, but I will tell you that we spoke. I got to speak for the first time in a while to Tiffany Daniels' mother, Cindy. This really takes me back. Unfound covered Tiffany's disappearance like 6 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. I don't know where the time has gone. And it's been a while since I spoke to Cindy on the phone. It has to have been a few years. Even through Messenger, it's been a while. But all I can say is, new eyes looking at Tiffany's disappearance. Just to remind all of you, I'm just going to state some things that are already on the record that are not secrets. That, of course, over the years, there's been the suspicion. Remember, she was living with a friend of hers' dad. Remember, that guy was the roommate. And shortly after Tiffany went missing, he went to Europe for a while. And if you don't know, he died within the last few years. A lot of people have suspected him. Did he cause Tiffany's disappearance? You might also remember that there was a mentor of hers at the school she was attending, an art school or something, that kind of ran like a theater group or film production group, and she was involved in that. And there was a belief that maybe Tiffany and this guy had something going on, and could he have caused her, just even though he's married, could she have been like the other woman, and did something happen there? That's also been out there over the years. You should know, I didn't know this, but Cindy told me this on Saturday. He's dead too now. So two of what we might call the best suspects, if we're inclined to believe that it was foul play, two of the best suspects in Tiffany's disappearance are now deceased. But there's still, like I said, I can't get into it. But she just wanted to talk to me about it, and it was good talking to her. I was actually up in Floral City at that Air Bnb that I mentioned, and I called her on Saturday evening, and it was good to talk to her. And so she seems to have be working with some new decent people up there. They're trying to help her out. And in fact, I told her that I said, give them my number. I'm happy to talk to them, give them my insight into everything that has gone on, at least the way I understand it. Although I realize that, I don't remember every exact detail about Tiffany's disappearance. I realized that there was a rumored sighting of her after by some waitress, and Tiffany was with two other women. I've never really bought into that, but we might have talked about that in that interview from 2017. But if you're not familiar with her disappearance, she went missing, and her car was eventually found in a parking lot right along the edge of the Gulf of Mexico in the Pensacola area, up there in the panhandle of Florida. And there was you have to go through some sort of toll or something to get out there. And there was a picture that took, a picture of her license plate going through the toll. Of course, it's just the back of the car. You can't see who's inside. At a particular time, and then later, her car, it was like a SUV of some type, was found out there. There was also a rumor that somebody had actually seen her out there, and some on a bike, or the bike. If you remember, her bike was inside the vehicle, but it had sand on the tires, like somebody had taken it for a ride. These are all things that are coming back to me. But it seems now that it's kind of going in a different direction now. Although still in a foul play direction, but still in a foul play direction, but just I guess we're saying making the net a little bit bigger. Let's just say that. I would just put it that way. Like I said, I can't get into it, but foul play is still very much the number one belief for the Daniels, which maybe is not a surprise to anyone. I will admit to all of you that, it seems dicey to me that somebody who, if this was foul play, given my experience now, of course, when Cindy was on Unfound way back in 2017, maybe I'd covered 30 disappearances or something like that. I'm up to like 307 now. And the only one of the big problems that I have with the foul play angle is that would a killer really park her vehicle out there and go through a toll? If somebody killed her, it had to have been somebody that's local, somebody knows that going out there, that the vehicle is going to, there's going to be a picture taken. And I get it. The killer's trying to make it look like maybe Tiffany went out there and went out into the water and everything. I get that. But driving out there, it's not very easy to get back to the mainland. It's a lot different than parking her vehicle in a Walmart parking lot and having a buddy pick you up. This complicates things. And that's why, if you can even get this information now, it's probably somewhere in a computer, because really Tiffany Daniels' disappearance is really not that old. It's certainly not very old in Unfound's world. Maybe, even though I know this would be as laborious work as could be, is in some computer, some Florida transportation computer, a picture of all those license plates from that day, and you start going through them and see who were the owners of all those cars, matching up license plates and names. Is that where we need to go with this at this point? But I think a local would knew that. And so why would you take that chance that somebody's going to follow you out there to pick you up, and then somebody is going to start doing that? You have to be open to the idea that some investigator might do that. To me, this is the problem that I've always had with the foul play scenario. Now, very well could be that she drove out there by herself and met somebody out there and they went somewhere. She met somebody out there that night or something, and she got in that vehicle and left. Certainly possible. And then something that wasn't planned, it was something spur of the moment, a crime of passion happened somewhere else. I guess I could be open to that. But, the ditching of the car to make it staged, I don't know, seems really, really too complicated. That seems more like an episode of Columbo than like real life. I think that somebody would just think, the sooner I get rid of this car somewhere, the better off I'm going to be. I take it out there. Who the heck knows who's going to see me and everything else? If I killed her and everything, it just seems so complicated. But I will tell you, this is the scenario that I think the Daniels still believe. I guess what also means is that even to this day, despite me wanting to help the Daniels family out and everything, I'm still not convinced that this was foul play, to be honest. I still can't rule out the idea that she went out there and just took a swim to nowhere. It very well, you get out, like I was just saying about when it comes to Natalee Holloway. My opinion is that you can't walk somebody out carrying a body out into the water and walk out far enough that the body won't come back to shore. On the other hand, if you're a healthy 20-something, you can surely swim quite far out there to the point where, yes, if something happens and you can't make it back to shore, then yes, you won't come back to shore. And so this is what's always been in my mind. But like I said, as you all know, my own theories about these disappearances do not get in the way of me ever helping families out, even though I may disagree with what they're doing. I'll always try to give them, the best advice that I can. Rockford, just listen to that episode. Fantastic interview. Roommate odd, but mentor was a different level of shady. Don't buy this sighting earlier either. The art sale angle is interesting. Right. There was a bunch of art of hers that were in her, forget what it was. Was it a Toyota 4Runner or something like that? Kathy, 10-3, text off of the 8th. Bad news for Cherie on that. Rockford, what do you think happened to Tiffany? I've always thought the same thing, drowning since I saw her on Disappeared Rockford. Kathy, she had a lot going on, which puts self-harm in play. Yet I'm struck by parallels to Jennifer Kessie. Boyfriend is out of town, and who decides to make a move? Yep. There's no doubt Tiffany Daniels, attractive young woman. She had a lot of different men in her orbit, which then makes it very possible. It certainly does raise the possibility that one of them tries something and kills her, maybe very, very much like Vandersloot killed Natalee Holloway. Certainly possible. It gets questionable to me when we start talking about where the vehicle was found and all of that. That seems like really, really complex to me, especially since we would have to accept that it was a local who did this and would know when you go out there, it's kind of like, parking a vehicle at a dead end or something. So, but I'm still hopeful. Maybe there's something to what Cindy was talking to me about, me, if it's going to solve it, but I just don't see any evidence right now. Foul play. Certainly there seem to be some things going on that are circumstantial, but that's about it. All right, a couple more things. If you've been watching on YouTube, of course, on Facebook as well tonight, you know that I've put up another code for my How to Podcast Better Than Anyone teachable course. From now until next Monday, if you use the code ULOCT232023, that's ULOCT232023, say it again, going to Teachable. So how to podcast better than anyone.teachable.com and /courses, and you pick one of them. And if you purchase one of them and you use that code ULOCT232023, you will get 50% off your purchase if you do that between now and next Monday. Another thing, the next new episode of Found, of course, this is only for Patreon supporters and YouTube supporters. I'm going to be going over from disappearance to discovery of Lori Ruff. Does that name sound familiar to you? She is the woman who went missing from Pennsylvania in the 1980s, but then she was discovered after she committed suicide in 2010. She was discovered to be Kimberly McLean, who went missing from Pennsylvania. So she was Kimberly McLean in Pennsylvania. She went missing, stole a couple different identities over the years, and then turned herself into Lori Ruff. She ended up committing suicide in 2010. Well, I'm going to go through all of that from disappearance to discovery. Why did she go missing? What is the main factor and the contributing factors? Why she was missing for so long from 1986 to 2000, even after 2010. It wasn't after she was dead. It took a couple years to find out her true identity. And then the main factor and the contributing factors. And then finally, how she was discovered to be who she really was, the main factor and the contributing factors. And so in this, we get to take a good examination is how is it that a woman in pre-internet society was able to change her identity so easily and so convincingly for so many years? How did she do that? How did she think through that? Very interesting. Very, very. And it sounds to me that she ended up being very strange. Seemed to have some mental health issues. But that will be the next issue of episode of Found that will come out before the end of the month. Be working on that later this week, probably this weekend. Of course, I have another Unfound Now to do, so I'll be looking at recent disappearances to figure out what the next Unfound Now episode that we'll play here on YouTube. And while I'm at it, this reminds me of something before I get into Friday's episode. I posted this in the discussion group. How weird is it that two guys with the last name Hoagland, Hoagland, Hoagland is not a very common last name anywhere. I mean, it's not like Denzel. Denzel is really rare. But what are the odds that Robert Hoagland, of course, we know Robert Hoagland, that was very recently, who went missing from Connecticut, was found to have died in New York, changed his identity, left his family, his wife, his kids, was kind of living off the grid, and he died. And if he hadn't died, maybe of a heart attack or something, we still wouldn't know what happened to him. But his last name was Hoagland. What are the odds that a guy with the last name Hoagland also did that in Indiana in the 1990s and then was discovered to be living here in Florida under an assumed name, changing his life with a new family and everything? What are the odds of that? Guys with the same last name did this and successfully did it for years. What are the odds? If they both had the last name Smith, then I'm not too weirded out by it. But Hoagland, I can't help but think that Robert Hoagland, was Richard Hoagland. The other guy's name was Richard Hoagland. Was he discovered to have done what he did before Robert Hoagland went missing? I have to look into that. What are the odds? It's so crazy. And to my knowledge, they're not related in any way. But two guys named Hoagland both go missing, get new identities, start new lives, and successfully do so for many, many years. When I discovered that, must have been like a couple weeks ago now, I was so weirded out about that. Could not believe it. 11-3 now, Texas Rangers. Oh my goodness. All right. Rockford's going to the win. Oh, are you, Rockford, going to the win? I see how you roll now, Rockford. I know the kind of people that go to the win, Rockford. I know those people. Well, you have a good time, Rockford. I was inside the win once while I was there. Just a little above my pay grade, people going to the win. All right, let's go to Friday's episode. Now, if any of you have Paramount Plus, this is just going to be a disappearance that's very familiar to you. There is a series that is on Paramount Plus. It's in its fourth season. It's called Never Seen Again. And this is the disappearance of Irene Gakwa, Gakwa. She is on Charlie Project. I do not know if she's on NamUs. She went missing from Gillette, Wyoming on February 24th, 2022. And I'm having two locals who have become very, very involved in trying to find Irene as guests. In fact, I did something different this time. These are two women who actually appeared in the episode that's on Paramount Plus. But of course, I give them a lot longer time to talk than they get in that episode. Really took time to really get, their insight into it, being that they've been very involved since very close to the beginning. And what's interesting, as I interviewed them individually, and I used pretty much the same outline for both. So you're going to get to hear this local writer who's been writing on and on and on about the investigation into Irene's disappearance and how she has been reporting on it. And then you're going to get to hear from an amateur independent investigator from Gillette, Wyoming, who has become a volunteer, has been helping with the family and everything. And you get to hear her opinion on it as well. So the one interview will play, and then the other interview will play. And as you know, I love it when just your average citizen gets so deep into this and wants to help a family out. It takes time to get to know the family and everything else, and really tries to help them genuinely, not like the Phil Kleins of the world, of course. So I really want to have those people on, those two women on. One's name is Jennifer Coker, Kocher. And the other woman's name is Stacy Kester, Koestr. Very similar last names. So they will be the guests for this Friday, the disappearance of Irene Gakwa. And yes, this is an episode. This kind of disappearance is The Man Said. So if you want to look that up on Paramount Plus, go find the series Never Seen Again. It's only a 25-minute episode, but this episode for Unfound is going to actually be a two-parter. So there you go. Richard Hoagland's The Summary came first. I knew about Richard's years ago. All right, Deborah is getting out. Hazel said bizarre coincidence for sure regarding the Hoaglands for sure. It just so weirds me out. But that's all I have. That is the end of this live show for October 23rd, 2023. Please give this a thumbs up before you leave. Please give this a nice review on whatever podcast application. If you're listening to this as a podcast on the next day, Tuesday, the 24th. And you will hear me on Friday for the disappearance of Irene Gakwa. So that's it. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the great discussion tonight. Thank you for taking some time out of your Monday night. And Cherie, I'm so sorry about your Houston Astros. And later, Charles, hey, Chuck, you should know I might be coming out to Colorado again for something else. Kind of related, but the same, but different. So I will keep you posted. Maybe we'll all get together again. Good night, everyone. Say hi to the kids for me.